I met a gypsy.
That's the other thing too, I guess, like this whole e-bike kind of revolution that's going to come is like, it's going to just change free riding. I mean, you got Justin Mumford's like kind of doing his own unique deal as it is, but that comes with like this whole element of like getting shut down by the cops at every turn. And, you know, you look at a dude like Scranny, like he ain't ever making a 450 main event on a supercross track. And that's like not his lane, but it's like here's a guy that's going to be able to make a name for himself and like carve this like whole lane and make this whole genre for himself to where like he could probably like he's probably going to end up being like a fairly famous dude in moto, like off the back of this whole revolution, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Mulford like kind of opened up everybody's eyes, like that he got a company behind a street moto video. You know, like I put out some, you know, some little street stuff on my e-bike and skate parks, and, you know, Scranny put out his own little video part with him and his buddy, you know, jumping out of parking garages and like just, you know, riding the Bakersfield sign, like wall riding it and jumping over golf courses, just like all the funny stuff he did. And then Mulford took it like another step forward and got, you know, he had the backing of all those, you know, pro skaters. He kind of really went to, it had the vibe of like he was just kind of tagging along with like the top pro skaters and then putting his wheels on them and putting his own little mark on what they were doing, which that was a real unique way of going about it. That's going to be different than, you know, he's going to have a different take from, you know, Mulford's going to have a different take on street riding and what he's doing than most of us, you know, because he rolls pretty tough with that crew of, you know, like top elite skaters, like, you know, Loy and Nyjah and everybody like that. So it's cool. But like Scranny, I feel like is like a low budget Hollywood stunt man. Like he's pulling off like stunts, like legit stunts. like I mean, not saying that these other guys aren't, but when you see some of the stuff, like I just can't wait. I can't spill the beans on it, but it's going to be great. Like I've been working all summer on a project and I'm more excited about his project than my own that's coming out here soon. You know, like it's going to be cool. Like Raha's got a project coming. It's cool to see that everybody, when I quit racing dirt bikes and I worked at Monster, the thing that I tried to do was I went into the, you know, Monster. I was like, we need to get, you know, more guys that are specific to making, you know, like doing these cool things. Like, you know, Axel, when, you know, Axel was just coming out, he was a good amateur rider, but just kind of didn't have the last year amateur pro. But we're like, you know, he was a killer fit for Monster, and he was that guy that could do the crazy stuff that people didn't want to do and that people like Monster could get behind and market. And it's just cool to see, like, you know, a lot of these companies are getting their own guy like that, you know, like that are doing these projects. Everybody's getting a film budget now, you know, like motocrossers didn't get film budgets. Like when I quit racing and went into moto, I went into like try to get people film budgets, and now people are getting film budgets. Like, not to like say like I'm, you know, it was a collective, you know, thing with everybody but it was like an active push that you wanted to make. Yeah, and I think that it's working. Like people are, you know, like Bierman has his own event. Like I'm doing my like Big Hill Jam. Axel's got his thing. Like, you know, Raha's doing his movie. Like, you know, just there's these rider owned and ran contests, projects are becoming the norm, and that's what I'm excited about. Like I'm you know, more excited to go to my, you know, like to have my event and go to Bierman's Imagination and do like all that kind of stuff. Like that is, X Games is still around and still hanging, but I'm more excited to see what everybody's doing to, you know, push these new ideas without the constraints of, you know, having a corporate sponsorship into it. It's kind of like we're just getting thrown the keys, like, hey, go try it, see what happens. So I'm excited for it. I think there's going to be even more. You know, I hope to see it'll be cool to see, it sounds like there might be some welding of mountain bike and moto together soon too. Yeah. So that'll be, I think that I think they go two hand in hand not to.
Yeah, well, you look at like
sweet.
the Fest series. Like when you were talking about that Kuberg, it's just like, dude, you could probably take that and hit those Fest series jumps and be in the same kind of conversation as like a dude like Remy Morton, you know, like you got and Cam Zink and like the dudes that are like really pushing in that whole world as well. So yeah, and I think that we sort of like, there was a Freeride 1.0, and I feel like that was Twitch and, you know, the going to the hills and that whole kind of deal. But like the industry that they were in was funded by freestyle competitions. So you were kind of like completely dictated. Like the whole freeride movement was sort of had to work around the X Games, X Fighters kind of deal. And then that's sort of gone away now, to where you're right. Like this generation is, I feel like the first generation of like legit free riders, in the sense that there's like skaters and free surfers that just make a career off like never even having to do an event. And if it is an event that they do, it's like an event that's put on by their peers.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I mean, it's cool to see, because I think in the last few years, when you start having, you know, big companies are running these action sports events, I don't envy being in their shoes on balancing budgets and deciding who gets what attention and what money. And especially like when you're at Viking Stadium in Minneapolis and you have to just like portion out the size of the field for what events get what, you know, what size of the floor. Like that, you kind of, it's cool to have it all in one event, but you start to kind of dumb down everything a little bit. So it's cool, like with these, you know, even they were doing like those Fight Club things, like they did it at McNeil's house. Like that was pretty cool, you know. And the imagination thing was full blown. Like that course, there's never been a course like that, and it was almost kind of, I always felt like it was really cool to be there, and there was some gnarly stuff, but I almost was like sitting there thinking, man, they should have invited some like real freestyle guys. Like I bet you they would have started to go off out here. And I think that maybe they're trying to keep that from happening, because that's just going to be it's scary enough throwing a whip over those jumps. Imagine when those guys start trying to throw flip tricks over those jumps. No. You know, like I've seen Taka ride in the hills. Like Taka, I've seen him hit random dirt hits and throw like massive flip tricks, like double grab flips off dirt hits in the hills.
Yeah, you ain't fucking with that.
No, like no, I mean, and I don't know. It's just, it's almost like he's so gnarly that he's doing these tricks on freeride. You can't even call it freeride anymore. It's like he like doesn't even get the respect for that. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where that transforms into, because you could tell it was already brewing with Colby and Axel. Like they start flipping everything, they start tricking everything, and it was almost like freestyle start sparking back up. But then again, if you would have had Jeremy Stenberg in his prime, and Todd Potter in his prime, and Wes Agee in his prime, like on those courses, like they would have won that contest too. You know, it's just kind of having to start back over. But either way, it's just cool to see that everybody's out there trying to make their dreams come true. You know what I mean? Yeah. And putting stuff on for more than anything, just their buddies in the culture. You know, like we're not really making a bunch of money off this stuff. We're just probably taking way more of a risk than we ever should to promote these events and do these things. You know, like when I did my event, like I put my nuts on the line and put like 50, 60 grand of my own money up just on the dream that, hey, like I think people are going to show up, you know? And if not, we're going to get some good content either way. So I guess that's all we're going to do.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.